I've always tried to have enough Google reviews online that I was out far enough ahead that the other people in the market will think it's too tiresome to actually try to chase me. So someone comes on, and think that's the biggest advantage anyone has that's been in had a Google page for long enough. If you're not taking advantage of that, because anyone that starts as a new company, they have zero.
Welcome to Unfiltered, the official podcast of propertymanagement.com. I'm your host, Dylan Scroggins, joined by founder, El Presidente of propertymanagement.com, Mr. Matt Speer, and have a very special guest today, right out of Chicago, Mr. Mark Ainley. How are you, man?
Man, I'm awesome. It's Friday. You guys invited me on here. You guys have an awesome new product that I signed up for. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, we love having you, man. I think you're one of the first people I followed on LinkedIn. I love your content game. We're modeling a lot of what we're trying to do after you. I already gave you a hard time about not wearing the classic Mark white rally cap. So I almost wore a rally cap in your honor. But man, you got a great style. We love the energy.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I didn't always have that. It came when you started creating the content. The content you have to, our everyday voices are so mundane. And once you start listening to it, or you listen to it on a feed or something like that, and it's like you have to almost amp it up a little when you hit that record button.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Well, once again, we look at you as as an inspiration in this space, man. So it's fun to have you. Cool. Well, just to get us started, we always start this. We typically do kind of like the classic intro of kind of who you are and how you got into property management. We'll get to that in a second. But first off, we got to talk about the Bears, man. Are you Team Caleb or no? Because I feel like every Bears fan I talk to, it's not even that is the question. Team Caleb or no?
Hold on, I gotta go paint my fingernails. 1 second, I'll be right back.
I am Team Caleb. You know what? I'm Team every pretty much Chicago quarterback we ever had, and I don't know. It's that the quarterbacks come here to die. If I was the quarterback in the draft, I would just do everything I could to not get selected by the Bears. So.
Oh man, well I remember the Brian Urlacher days with the what do you call it, with the shoulder pads when they come off the top. I forgot what you call it, but he had that look, man. He was the man was born to play linebacker for the Bears. So it's cool to see someone reach their personal mission in life.
Well, and real quick on Caleb Williams. So have you guys seen that video of CJ Stroud going up to Caleb Williams post game and sort of big brothering him, telling him, "Hey, hang in there, man. You're going to be okay." There's stats since that happened. He's actually playing much better than CJ Stroud. So a little bit of, got to give the man props where he deserves it.
They dominated it for the most part last week against the Cowboys. I actually, here's my little trick I do. I put money against whoever the Bears are playing. So it's if the Bears lose, I at least won money. And if the Bears win, then I lost a little money, but at least the Bears won. So I always kind of try to hack that one.
Nice. Smart man.
That's awesome, man. At another level. Well, man, we do like to cover this because we might have some listeners that aren't as active on LinkedIn and podcasts, et cetera. But we'd love to hear just a quick intro. We always say no one's in kindergarten wanting to grow up and be in property management. So give us a quick overview. Obviously, we'll have some show notes to your own podcast and ours to redirect people there. But give us just a lightning fire. How'd you get into property management, and specifically what it's like building a PM company in Chicago? And yeah, just a quick snapshot of GC Realty too would be great.
Yeah, born and raised here in the Chicago market. Only moved away for 1 year to California, and only did that because growing up watching Saved by the Bell and 90210, I thought that I belonged to California, but I quickly realized I missed my network. So a lot of what has made me successful here in Chicago is my network. And came back here, got into real estate investing, which led me down the property management side of things, got my real estate license. So coming back to Chicago, my network, got into real estate investing. I went to college for something totally different, and I realized that I did not want to do what I was doing. So I did finish college just to make parents proud. But I was getting into real estate, and I bought my first property, totally bombed out on that one on the property management side. Had to basically evict the first tenant I ever placed. And I said, it was for my own property, but I'm like, I'm done with this landlording thing. And I said, I'll just sell people these problems. And I really doubled down on the broker side. But we kept selling properties to, I guess I say real estate investors, but people that were investing, because, back in 2005, 6, 7, you could get anyone can fog a mirror a loan, and you could find any property out there. So it was really easy to make money. But I kept having these people ask me hey, will you manage my property? And I kept saying no. And it probably 20 or 30 people later, I kind of we took on our first couple clients, but it was always a means to an end to grow a larger brokerage. It was all right. So if I take on these 2 properties here, they'll cover my electric bill. All right, this guy's got a property. Now we could get a water cooler in the office. So it was always a means to an end. But we continued to grow throughout the downturn. So coming out the other side, 2012, 13, we started growing people. We started growing indoors, and my things are kind of getting hectic around the office. And my partner's like, what's going on? We used to have such good control. I'm like, man, we manage 250 doors and 500,000 square feet of commercial space, and we don't even have a process in place. We're not even doing this like most of the day. So we, over the next 18 months, we kind of flipped the script from saying, hey, we're brokerage to we're brokerage and we do some management, we do a little of this, to just saying, hey, we're a property manager. And that was kind of where it really started, even though it took us about 8 years to get to that point.
So the size of GC Realty right now, is it where you wanted and thought it would be 5 years ago? Or is it just kind of slowly evolved year by year, step by step? And it's kind of like, here we are. Because a lot of our listeners, we've talked to them and they've said, hey, I don't know how big I want to be. I'm at 200. I think I want to be at 500. I'm at 500. I think I want to be 1,000. I'm at 1,000. I think I want to be at 700. So talk to us about size and how you and your partners think about how big you want to be and the challenges or maybe disadvantages of thinking that big.
Well, I think property management owners end up answering the question by not solving the problems they're able or willing or wanting to solve to bust through that next ceiling. I think any businesses, but I'll speak specifically to property management, you hit these ceilings. Maybe the first ceiling might be around 200-300 doors, and the next ceiling might be around, I'd say, about 700 doors. The next ceiling hits again probably about 1,000 to 1,200, depending how tough a management you have. And each one of those, like, you got to grow up. Like, there's so much, another level of maturity you got to step up, another level of risk you got to take on, another level of management. Like, so it keeps growing it. And we use this artificial growth number of door count, when I think it ends up being like, how far do you want to grow in growing a real business? And some people check out and sell, some people push through, and some people just kind of holding tight and stick at that door count. And if that's what they're happy with, that's great. I've always said, at 400 or 500 doors, if you're happy with that, you can make a huge income, 500-600 net a year, and just run a lifestyle business and not have to grow, and not, trying to plan to sell, or always looking for this big, huge BHAC.
Do you think there's some people that make that jump to that next phase, that next level, and they shouldn't have? They should have just stayed where they were at, been happy with the $300,000-$400,000 they're making. Because I think that the next stage, the expenses, everything rises, right? It's a gamble, it's a bet, it's an investment.
I think the people that plow through the ceiling and are able to do it, kind of make it a couple more rungs up on the ladder, getting to the next ceiling. I think the people that do that, or I think there's a lot of people that do that don't understand everything they have to do. And maybe they just are, there's just certain skill sets that will come at each level, right? They might have a couple of those, and there may be a couple of right people, or they kind of bust through a ceiling and then they lose a couple of key people. They didn't realize how key they were. And all of a sudden it's like, man, now we're kind of back at this 1,200 door mark, and we're trying to get through. And I think you run into that, and culture ends up changing too. So when we were a smaller company, hiring only people we'd hang out with and have beers with on Friday, it was a lot easier for everyone to row in the same direction, versus getting bigger and all of a sudden you have 30, 40, 50 people, and they have different career objections, different generations, different, so culture ends up being something that is harder and harder to kind of corral with size.
Yeah. And even zooming outside of GC, we really try to have some forward thinking conversations on this pod. Tell us about you have obviously a very strong pulse on the industry right now. What are some things that get you really excited and get you concerned over these next 3 to 5 years in property management?
The concerns that I might have, we'll go there first. Regulation is awesome for our industry. I think the more difficult it gets for everyday mom and pop owner to manage their stuff, the more business we get as property managers. And we all know how little of the pie we actually manage right now. Like, that goes up a little. Like, that's huge. There's not enough property managers in the country to even service that. But when regulation starts playing with some of the financials, recently here in Illinois, they started talking about putting a cap on application fees to $20. And we charge $65, and part of that covers the revenue in a particular department, or cover, some of that stuff starts playing with your actual revenue, or your actual growth model. So then, resident benefit package type stuff. There's been talks in the past with our local government of not being able to add on these additional charges unless people opt in. And the fear is that people just wouldn't opt into those type of things. So these line items that you're building this company around could go away. We're potentially going to get approved earlier this year, actually, and ended up being like $160,000 number that it would affect us by, a top line number that would affect us by. That obviously a large portion of that will drop to the bottom line. So that's probably that's my concern right there. But some of that could be offset by the additional regulation will make people not want to. You could make it up for it in volume, I guess. So
yeah, or you can pass the fee to the client, or the trickle down effect.
Yeah, I think in our industry, we've tried to put more on the tenant side, so you're not charging, so not so much being charged to the owner, and that might be some of the reason why we're in this situation with the government regulation coming out. But yeah, at the same time, we'll all have to figure out that. Now, there's some states that obviously are more landlord friendly, and they won't have to worry about that as much. Maybe Indiana's not going to have to worry about that, but
just easy peasy over here. I think we changed our state slogan from a state that works to be the bold. I like the state that works way more, but it is definitely going to be market to market. Yeah, I haven't heard some of these things, but yeah, it sounds like in Illinois that that's going to be a big deal. I mean, 160,000. How many doors do you manage, Mark? I don't think we asked that earlier. Are you guys up over 1,000, or
we're right about 1,400 right now. And we have a million square feet of commercial. So we manage a bunch of like industrial, the older 60, 70, 80 built, 18-foot ceilings, 10 unit multi type stuff. So we like that. I invest in that as well too. Like that's something that we really like.
And even, kind of taking the big picture down to GC. I mean, what are some of actually we got to go back. What are some things get you excited? We can't leave it on government regulation.
Well, I think, so I say I got to rid that out of the way because that sucks talking about that part. But man, the great part is, man, anyone that's listening to this right now, and it's for the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, but this is such an immature industry. And where we started, I always tell people this, 20 years ago, you were basically, if you're a property manager, you're considered just like, you couldn't make it as a realtor, you're a degenerate realtor, so you had to go manage properties. Like now it's like came into its own, and it's became more mature, even more so since the crash. And I just look at like how many vendors are out there. Like there was a podcast when I started actually paying attention to the property management space. There was the couple vendors. Like now you go to like broker owner or whatnot, and there's 50, 60, 70 vendors. It's like there wasn't even that many people that worked for all the vendors we had combined in the entire company. Like, so just the way that this is going is as far as the industry goes, and we're kind of at that early stage. And who knows? The industry tried to consolidate and do a bunch of roll ups. A lot of those companies had issues. They're trying to figure out operationally how you do that type of stuff. But there'll be the next round of something cool like that, and it's going to keep people go where the money's at. And I think there's a lot, if anything, you guys have learned in your lifetime is subscription is the way to run a business these days. And we don't use the word subscription in our industry at all, but that's all we are. We're a subscription based recurring revenue model.
Yeah, it's amazing. I come from a software background, and so does Matt before we got into property management. And what's the difference between, in some ways, the philosophy of business around a software company that's like super sexy and everybody loves, to a property management company? There's so many similarities. Even the language around churn and retention are exactly the same, but one gets this like lipstick and one doesn't. So I've always been intrigued by that.
I think that's why looking back in my life, like that's why I'm in property management, because I was at a tech company and then I kind of accidentally became a property manager doing similar. Actually, sounds pretty similar to your story, Mark, but the recurring revenue was why I was like, all right, I've got to figure this out. And I sort of slowly fell in love with property management, realizing there are, lots of positives. But yeah, you're right. Now that there's a lot more technology, a lot more vendors, a lot more options. Yeah, I think it's an exciting time.
And I don't fear in our industry. I was thinking about this morning because I was listening to Neil Patel. I'm a big fan of his marketing podcast. And they're just talking about other industries and AI coming for your job and all that. And I feel we have such an advantage. Now, some of our frontline people in our industry, your AI is coming for your job. Like there's no doubt. But as far as an owner or the people being able to hire us to be able to facilitate services for them still, it's not going anywhere, at least in, call it in my next 10, 15 years in this industry. So that does not make me nervous at this point.
Hey, quick side rabbit trail note. I just thought about this, Mark. we mentioned at the beginning, like you were one of the leaders, especially in regards to like content creation, et cetera, LinkedIn, podcast, YouTube. Has that resulted in leads for you in Chicago? Is it more about giving back to the space? Is it more just because it's fun? Really just curious about the why behind that, because it's really well produced. You obviously put a lot of time, energy, and effort into it. But I'm just curious, like, what is one of the core reasons you like to do that? And how would you encourage other people to do the same in their local markets?
Well, marketing to me, so 2018 is where the big buzz around the industry was departmentalizing sales and marketing. Like it was more of just a function that someone wore that hat part time. And 2018, we kind of set out to, all right, Mark, you go do this. And I was very discouraged at first. And it was more so because I don't have a marketing degree or anything like that, but it's like, all right, if I spend $10,000 here, I can make this much money. Well, maybe. Well, if I spend 2,000 here, can I make that? Yeah, there's a good chance you do that. Like all the variables of like what you put in and what you get out, and marketing is still like that today. But what started off as like me trying to find a silver bullet turned into me trying to figure out different ways you can like get the silver bullet. And maybe that's ties back to me want to put money on the Bears. I like a little gamble, and that's what I think marketing's turned into me. It's like, oh, you wake up with this idea. It's like you try this real fast and maybe send this video and it catches, it doesn't catch. I've only had so many videos go viral, so I really lean on things not going viral more than going viral. But when it goes viral, it only motivates me for the next 2 months.
It's got to be like playing golf. Like you're really bad at golf. You hit one good shot, and you're like, you there next season. You're ready to roll.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, exactly. But as far as the content goes, a lot of our content is less about property management. It's about real estate investing. So in between 08 and 18, we did the whole burst strategy. We did 482 units. And I learned so much in that, from the construction side of things, to the number side of things, the banking side of things, to the city permits, all that type of stuff. But it's when we started that 18 going, and we stopped investing. Here's another thing. We stopped investing because we thought competition was getting tight back then, which it was in the time, but compared to now, like what we could have kept buying stuff for, it would have been crazy. But we said our return on our time will be far better if we put it into the property management and grow this the right way. So we had pretty good growth between 18 and call it 23 while we kind of changed our focus. But 18 was when we jumped into marketing. But I came out of all the investment side of things knowing a lot more than I ever thought I would, and getting on the phone with a guy that's kind of too flat. And it's like, oh, you could help him and guide him more than I would have to sell him. And you can only talk to 10 or 12 of those people a week, and you can't just call those people out of the blue for the most part, because they're not going to listen to you at that point. They have to find you, so you're limited to how many people are going to really come inbound call you. And that's really where the podcast came over. It's like, man, we could at least we could maybe talk to 200 people a month if 200 people actually decide to listen. So just kind of getting a bigger audience has always been kind of the goal that we've had as we've grown.
And sidebar real quick. So did you burr that many? Were you burring single, like 1 to 4 unit, or was some of multifamily? Was that for yourself, or was that for clients, or both?
It was for us, and we stayed, and we did one building. It was 18 units. We did a couple 6 flats, but for the most part, it was called 1 to 4 type buildings. And for probably 60% of it was single family. We were big on that because there's a couple pockets we were investing in that had similar floor plans, so we could buy stuff sight unseen and all that. And we knew our numbers were pretty spot on. We did a reality TV show in 2017 as well too, because it was on CNBC, so that was a whole other trip that it checked off my bucket list, but I would never do it again.
I gotta look that up.
How'd that come about? Did they reach out, or did you reach out?
They found me on Bigger Pockets. So again, I was always out there on Bigger Pockets trying to network with other investors, try to find off-market deals and give back. Bigger Pockets is one of those places you either go to find deals, give back, or ask for resources or whatever, people's opinion on stuff. So I would always go on there, and somebody found us and me, and they requested a kind of a video like this, and we got on. And ultimately, for whatever show they pitched us, we were too successful, which I'm like, cool. All right. I didn't know where that was going, if that route it went. But me and my partner on this video, I don't know, we're kind of like an old married couple in a way, the way we talk to each other and throw shots and stuff like that. So they're like, but we love you guys. Like, so then I find this other show is called The Deed, and it ran for a couple seasons, and we were on an episode of that. So that's really ultimately where that went.
Love it. All right. So Mark, zooming out again, the market, we talked about content, we talked about culture. I feel like we could have you on as a follow episode just on those two topics. But for the listener at home who's maybe beating their head against a wall, or who's Googling nonstop or on ChatGPT trying to find that next unlock for their business, I know it's not going to be like a golden ticket. What are some emerging technologies, tools, mindsets that you've seen successful at GC or amongst your peers at your level that you think would be really beneficial to anyone listening?
Yeah, I did a presentation recently for, I think it was Rent Scale, and it was all about like the 18 things I learned in the last 7 years. And it was great because anyone that listened to it could have taken those 18 ththings and compressed it into a couple of years. But the first thing I talk about in that presentation is reputation. Because if you're not, and I think I saw, I think it was your guys' article this morning or your guys' newsletter.
Yeah.
If you don't have that Google rating, and if you don't have that reputation, and if when people Google up your company, or like, you don't stand a chance. And now in the world of AI, and you can't control that search or where it's pulling from, like the other 17 things not worth your time if you're not going to clean up your reputation and clean up your Google. So that's been the biggest thing for us, and it's almost our. I'll get in fights with my partner sometimes because we've never experienced as a company us having a bad reputation or having below a 4.6 or anything like that. So it's like they just don't know like how good we got it because we've always maintained that. So I go pretty insane. I'm not as bad anymore because we have our team now getting a lot more reviews. But when I was the guy that was always, when we get a bad review, I go try to find 10 more reviews from clients. So I got mad about having to do that. But I was pretty passionate about it. Like, man, why can't we do this? Why can't we fix this? Off they got $300. What are we gonna do? Like, but I think it starts with reputation. I think that's the biggest thing for anybody listening. That whether you're getting started, if you can't build that up right, the rest of it ends up not benefiting you.
So what's so important about reputation? Obviously, I think everybody knows the Google review rating game. I think the data that I saw that you referenced in the newsletter was if you're not above a 4.4, you have a much less chance of being on page one. But then it's actually more about volume of review. If you have 300 or more reviews, I've got to cite back to my own newsletter data, but it jumps you into like another echelon of chance at ranking on that first page. Obviously, market to market, but so there's your actual reputation. There's like what your clients would say about you, and then there's like what's set on Google. And we all know kind of there's tenants. It's like a different game. So how do you balance the like real reputation versus the online reputation, if that even makes sense?
Yeah, I think of course I probably skipped over the real life reputation. You just got to do what you say what you do, and just do it fast enough. Now, the thing that I think has really helped us is just being responsive. And it sounds really easy and cheesy, but we trademarked GC Chicago's Responsive Property Management in 2019. But then we made it a core value. So it was just like get back to people now. People want it. If we have to compete with computers or AI, I mean, it's going to be how fast can we get back as a human. But so that's always been kind of our thing of just get back to people. You could email tomorrow morning, but it just send the 3-minute email right now. You spent too much time thinking about it. You should have just sent it. Then online, I guess what I've always tried doing, and I'm not saying this works, but I've always tried to have enough Google reviews online that I was out far enough ahead that the other people in the market will think it's too tiresome to actually try to chase me. So someone comes on, I think that's the biggest advantage anyone has that's been had a Google page for long enough. If you're not taking advantage of that, because anyone that starts as a new company, they have zero. So I think we're at like 800 and something now, and it's like,
yeah, I'm looking at it right now, 858, 4.6.
Yeah, so getting the next guy that comes in, it's just gonna be that much trouble, and people have to, whether it be AI searching for that. And then the end of the day, people it's all about like and trust, right? They do business with people they like and trust. The trust factor, what might be in reviews, they leave a bad review or read a bad review. It's easier to like someone when you hear him or not like them when you hear him get smashed on online or whatever. It's like, I don't know if I want to do business with that guy if that's the way he handles that. So, and I think the good reviews and the bad reviews, all those, how you respond to those are big as well too, because I think those get read just as much.
Yeah, 800 reviews, 4.6 stars. I feel like you need a statue, and all in Chicago, which is probably one of the tougher markets in the nation. So, well done, man. And you're working on Fridays, so you're a dog, man.
Yeah, I just prompted ChatGPT. I've got the data set that I was working off that newsletter. So 4.6. Okay, so first off, if volume is the most important, it's roughly twice as important as rating. You're in the 97th percentile on Google review volume compared to other companies on page one of Google. So think about that. So of the companies on page one of Google nationwide, you're in the 97th percentile of volume. So what that says is if you're at a couple hundred reviews, getting up to that 300-400 range, like you don't have to get up to 858, but obviously, It really moves the needle. So that's interesting.
Well, I struggled to get my team bought into let's reward our team with the $25, whatever our incentive is to get them. And that took up until probably about 18 months ago for my team to like say, okay, let's do it. I'm like, man, like, so like it was a dog for me and our marketing team. It was an uphill battle to always be trying to figure out how we get more reviews and all that. But now we got the team bought in, it's been a lot easier. So
Love it. Love it. Well, good stuff. We'll just transition a little and land the plane here in regards to just like wrapping up lightning round. Once again, we know it's not like a golden ticket, and we know a lot of the things that you're doing. Some people say, hey, I can start this tomorrow. And some people think it's going to take me 5 years to even get to the point where I could start something, Mark's saying. But for you right now, what's the favorite tool or app for your business that you're using? Doesn't have to be a PM tool. I know we mentioned like the 40 software vendors at broker owner, but what are some just like very clean tools or apps that you're using right now?
well, here, this is very probably 10 years ago, but this is a tool that, man, people are not using that I love. It's called Cubicasa. It's an app on your phone and you can do 2D floor plans. And we use it as a management company for not only, you should have a floor plan for your marketing on everything, but we use it for that. And then we use it for measurements. So we get the floor plan, the turnover, and then we send it over to the flooring guys. Say, hey, man, you're going to put carpet in this room, this room, and this room, or vinyl plank, whatever you're going to do. And that helps us with square footages, for painting. So it helps both our leasing and our marketing department. And it's free, actually. So I mean, you could upgrade it to show fixtures and furnish it and all that stuff. But so that's one. For me, the other tool, using Claude, I mean, being able to connect that with all of the different, I love just sending a screenshot and saying, throw this in my calendar and all that stuff. Like there's just a lot of these. I had an executive assistant that she went off. She had some personal things she had to do with her family. So she left, and I probably have backfilled probably about 30% of what she did with just using Claude. So that's been huge. And that's probably me not experimenting enough and not being aggressive enough, just kind of low hanging fruit type stuff. So I know there's more that I could do with that. And then based on that, the other big thing I think is that Prompt Cowboy. Have you guys heard of that?
I haven't heard of that.
Oh, so Prompt Cowboy is how I take my uneducated, not clear, horrible communicating skills, put it into there, and then it spits out the proper prompt you should use. It might ask a couple questions. This is the prompt, then you should copy and paste to chat or to Claude. So
nice. Yeah, I'm looking at this. It looks like you can just jump right in. It feels like you're in ChatGPT. A company called 4Day, powered by 4Day.
yeah, so that's been a great tool for us for just being clear in what you're at. Because I think here's the thing: a bad communicator will still ask bad prompts. Like AI will not solve that you suck at communicating with other people. So
yeah, I usually start my ChatGPT if I'm really trying to do something. I'm always like, all right, let's start. Here's what I'm trying to do. Help me make the prompt, and then I start a new chat and throw it in. But maybe I'll have to give Prompt Cowboy a ride. See what that's like.
Yeah, so there's kind of three things that I've been messing around with.
Are you the biggest cheerleader for AI at GC Realty? Do y'all have someone designated to like even partial bit of their time to work on it? Just curious.
I'm fortunate because my partner, Cliff, who's our CEO, he actually likes that more than anything. He probably likes that more than the people facing stuff. Super smart guy, and he's been tying in all of the. We've done a lot. I can't compare us to anyone else because I'm not sure, but we just have a lot of that going on in the background right now. So it's pretty exciting. Everything he's doing with it. I think if anything, what he can build out and we can implement will be huge. I think if anything, our bigger problem has been he introduces these little tools, and it's more of just like an email, and then our team's just like, okay, you know how it is in PM. It's like do this test, and to stop here and figure out what this is. Like if anything, one of the to-dos we had coming out of our level 10 last week was figuring out some cheerleaders we have inside the team that can start pushing some of this stuff out to the team. So that's probably our biggest obstacle right now is our team not adopting things the way the leadership level might be looking at things.
Cool. Yeah, we just talk about that a lot. AI comes up, not because it has to, because we want it to in this pod. And it seems like there's a lot of, it depends on door count and just energy levels, whatever. But a lot of times all the AI creativity just ends and starts with the owner founder. It doesn't really trickle down. So always curious about how people are, delegating that. But yeah, it seems like y'all got a great system. Cool. Continuing the lightning round. When it comes to a book or podcast, every PM leader should check out. Feel free to mention your own, but yeah, man, hit us. What you got?
So on the marketing side, there's a couple books. Hook Point, which actually someone at PMW gave me that about a year ago. Hook Point's it's all about just, catching people's attention, easy read, and then Pitch Anything. Have you guys read Pitch Anything? I think, yes. Heck yeah, man.
So I've got to jump in here. So Mark, I gave you a sales pitch earlier this week. You signed up, so it wasn't so terrible. But you were like, "Hey, you need to read this book, Pitch Anything," and I immediately bought it. Love Amazon because it was there by the end of the day. I've read half of it. I already updated our sales deck. And Mark, first sales call I do with a little bit of update on Pitch Anything. The guy said, "I think you guys are going to build $1 billion company," and I was like, "All right, I'm sold." That may or may not be true. Probably won't be true, but I was like, all right, I'm in. Pitch Anything. So great
I'm
book.
buying
Everybody
now.
should read it.
That's awesome. No, it's a great book. Any marketer, and here's the thing. The crazy thing is, like, we have a salesperson in the company, but man, when you do property management, you are, every time you're working with your clients, you are selling. Like, the property manager is selling that he's confident that this is the right $4,000 decision. He's selling the fact that I'm going to get back to you, and you trust that I'm going to get back to you on Tuesday, and I'm going to have a solution. Like, we are always selling in this industry. It might be every industry. I just know this one the best. So that's for marketing. And then I had two business ones. Actually, I had one business one, but the business one, 10x is easier than 2x. Benjamin Hardy. I just think a lot of what I picked that specifically for this podcast because there you go. You're talking about growth in this show, and we've talked a lot about that and growing. And there's a lot of people that want to do that, and it's crazy how when you look at Benjamin Hardy's got a new book out too along the same lines. I haven't read it yet, but I actually have it in my queue. But it's just so much easier to really look at, break down what you shouldn't be doing more so than what you need to be doing when you're looking at a bigger goal versus a smaller goal, because it just, you wipe out half of what you actually are doing right now to actually, if you think you're going to make it always 10x.
Remind me of that concept. So 10x better into it. Is that like, hey, I've got a goal in this year to do 100 doors, or let's say, I don't know, 50 doors. And then is that just going, well, why don't we actually say, how could we do that? Is it faster, or like, is it just more?
It's a better thinking of, like, so just say your goal is to sign up for this service. There's 40 people, and by the end of the year, it's like, all right, so what would it take to have to do 100 people? Right? That's like, your eyes lit up a little right there. Like what would it have to take? And you just, here's the thing. If you go into like Chat GPT and say, this is what I want to do, what would it take to do 40? It'll give you some bullet points. But if you go ask it a different way and say 100, like, it's going to totally give you a totally different response. Maybe share your calendar with it and tell it like what you're doing. It'll tell you what not to be doing and so forth. So it's just thinking it's easier to grow bigger than it is. And I think it's all because we all have, I love the saying, we underestimate what we can do we overestimate what we could do in a year, and we underestimate what we could do in 10 years. And it's a lot along the lines of that.
Yeah. If you like tell your kid to clean their room, like by the end of the week, it's going to get done maybe by the end of the week. If you tell them do it in the next hour, it's like the deadline is going to move the needle. And sometimes I feel like we set deadlines for ourselves that we can move up. So it sounds like that book sort of aligns with that.
Well, I asked the guy in my office what book I should recommend for this, and he did say the Elon Musk book. Have you guys read that, the biography? Yeah. Oh man, so that's great. So, but what I took away from that, I mean, that guy moves at literally lightning speed, and the whole concept around just moving faster or challenging people's deadlines. Alex Ramos talks a lot about this, but it's like, man, can you handle this for me? And you're like, yeah, I'll get it done by Tuesday. It's like, well, what would have to happen for you to have to get it done by the end of the day today? And probably it's like, I just won't do the two things that probably don't matter right now.
That's right. Yeah, I think Elon Musk has that. He has a quote. He's a nut. It's aggressive, but he said, it was more of a personal goals quote where he's like, how can you think about your goals in 10 years and actually get them done in 2 months?
Yeah.
Like, could you? And I mean, he does that. And we're all not wired like him, but yeah, maybe instead of 10 years to 2 months, maybe the 10 years to 2 years. So it's like, we can do a lot more than we think. I mean, think about Dylan, this podcast, dude. A year ago, we barely knew each other. And then domain happens. We're like, we should do a podcast. I mean, you can just do things. You can just take action, do things. So
love it. Well, Mark, this has been awesome. I took a lot of notes just for my own recruitment business, but you got a lot to share with the industry, man. We really appreciate you being here. We got one final question for you. What is one word to describe the future of PM?
Maturity.
You saying we need more of it, or are we on the path to it?
We're on the path to it.
No more dad jokes for me. So I guess just gotta raise the maturity level.
No, it's just as an industry, our just how we handle books. Like, here's the number one thing I always say. I'm throwing a bunch of little pitches out here today, but profit coach. Like, everyone's looking to start a PM should start with profit coach. They shouldn't go try figuring out how to add 300 doors. They should start figuring out how to make money from day one. Like that should be the gateway to our industry. So, and that's a mature move if you start your company that way.
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
love that. Just the professionalization of the industry. Going back to software and their reputation, they're known for having like really tight books and all these, FP&A and like all this like finance side of the business. It's like, well, how can we bring that reputation and that expectation to the PM space? So yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, Brad's a friend of the pod, and we had him on a few weeks ago. And ironically, he said the same thing you said about regulation being good for the business and not kind of like the obstacles away type stuff, where it's actually good on the back end for that, which I was not expecting at all. So yeah, man, that's a great plug for them, but also like it makes sense to lay that foundation early so you can position yourself for 10x, when you want to, and not be crippled by your own bad foundation. So it all makes sense.
I'll throw one more thing in there. Anyone this was a big hot topic. It was a hotter topic or conversation around 7, 8 years ago. Is Australia. Australia is probably about 20 years ahead of us in the property management industry. They have about 80% of their properties are professionally managed versus our 35, 40, whatever number you're going to say that day. And like they have all the regulation. So one thing I have on my list to do here as things slow down here for the winter is just kind of research more of their evolution into where they're at today. But yeah, they're about 20 years ahead of us. So I'm going to say that because that makes me excited that that's where it could go.
Amazing.
Well, propertymanagement.com ever goes international, maybe we'll have to take a look at starting in Australia.
Very random circle here, but I actually rented a place in Australia. I lived in Australia for 2 years and was a renter. So I'll show you some of my paperwork, Mark. You can start digging into it. I'm sure I can find it. Oh, well, cool. Well, hey, Mark, thanks again, all the way from Chi-Town. We really appreciate it. Definitely a friend of the pod, and really appreciate all you've done in the industry and sharing a lot of insights today, man. It was awesome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.